Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Training camp is here, which means preseason is right around the corner. If you want to place a bet on any of the NFL action, betonline.ag is the place to do it.
24/7, 365, regardless on what sport. Just go to betonline.ag.
And to get started, use our promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's betonline.ag. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, cue the music. It's time to start the show. Welcome to the Bleav in Steelers show on the Bleav Network. I'm your host, Mark Bergin, joined as always by my guy, two-time Super Bowl champion and 12-year veteran of the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 24, Ike Taylor. IT, I know you are boots on the ground in Latrobe at Steelers training camp. We have a ton to discuss from Steelers training camp. Season's right around the corner, but we start today's show with breaking news. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson will face a 6-game suspension to start the 2022 season. I want to get your reaction of this news about Watson to start today's episode.
Mark, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be a year suspension. We was talking between 8 to 12. Now it's just only 6. So that put the Cleveland Browns in a pretty good situation when you want to come down to the season. They're having Deshaun Watson for a lot more games than expected. So they came up with a plan. They got it to the judge. Judge Sue said 6 games, so that's where we at right now.
This means that Watson is eligible to return Week 7. That is October 23rd against Baltimore. He will miss the Week 3 game against the Steelers if this suspension holds. Now, I've seen that the NFLPA has issued a statement saying that the Players Association and Watson do not plan to appeal the suspension. The NFL now has 3 days to decide if they want to keep the 6-game suspension, but we'll see what ends up happening. Also important news as well. And again, this is fluid. This is breaking news as of this morning, but Watson settled 3 more of the civil lawsuits filed against him, meaning there's only 1 more remaining out there of the 24 women that accused him of sexual misconduct as well. But 6-game suspension, Ike, it's a lot less than I had initially predicted. I'm going to say this. You had it right all along, Ike.
Yeah, he stood by his word. He said he did nothing out the context. Obviously, they did settle in court. He got rid of 3. Now he just have 1 more to go. So I'm sure Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns just want to put this all behind them, Mark.
Yeah, and I've got to put this out there, Ike, because 2 grand juries in Texas decided not to criminally charge Watson. I know we don't know the full terms of the civil lawsuits of what that monetary figure is with the women accusing him of all of the allegations. But I got to put this out there, and I'm going to let our listeners and viewers cast their own judgments. But if this Watson suspension holds, let's look at some of the other suspensions in the NFL, given that some different issues with players throughout the league. It's not. I'll let our listeners and viewers decide for themselves. Calvin Ridley, suspended 17 games for betting. Vontaze Burfict, 12 games for targeting. DeAndre Hopkins, 6 games for performance-enhancing drugs. Martavius Bryant, suspended indefinitely because of weed. Josh Gordon, 25-plus games for multiple substance abuse problems with weed. Darren Waller, 16 games substance abuse. And now Deshaun Watson, 6 games. There were 24 women. There were initially 25, but they had to throw one of the lawsuits out of sexual assault and looking for the right word, sexual misconduct allegations against Watson, Ike. So I want to put that out there just so people can draw their own conclusions. There's going to be a lot of discussion between now and the next 3 days if this suspension indeed and in fact holds with Watson.
Yeah, Mark, you're talking about a lot of repeat offenders off of that list, which you just named. You know, Deshaun Watson isn't a repeat offender. So the guys you name, man, they've been getting in trouble for a long time, multiple times. You know, so you only get so many chances. So that's why you see, other than Calvin Ridley, but, you know, the NFL, they do not allow that betting going on. You know, they don't want no player or anybody dictating to the game. You know, they want the game to be as pure as possible. Now, other than a few other names you name, man, the Josh Gordon, the Martavius Bryant, and a few others, man, them guys were repeat offenders. So that's why the suspension was so heavy.
It's a good point, Ike. And just to clarify, one of the 25 lawsuits against Watson was dropped following a judge's ruling in April 2021 that the plaintiffs needed to amend their petitions to disclose their names as well. So you'll see 24, you'll see 25 when talking about Watson. I just want to make sure we've got our facts right, Ike, when discussing this case. So we'll see. Again, he'll miss the first 6 games. If this holds, means that the Steelers will play the Browns in week 18 of the season. And so if he's the quarterback week 7 against Baltimore from then on, means he'll play he'll miss the first 6, but he'll play the remaining, what's my math here? Like 11 games. The 17 game season still goofs me up, but again,
I agree.
A lot less than I thought it would be. And I got to give you credit, Ike. You said 6 early on, and I looked at you. I remember I looked at you funny, and I was just like, there's no way. But listen, I think the NFL did do their due diligence with the judge, Sue Robinson, as well, and taking their time. And we'll see if anything else comes of this. There's going to be a lot of discussion this week. Is this suspension enough? Is it not enough? Is it too heavy? Is it just right? And I honestly, I want to know more information as this continues to go along. But the NFL took its time in making this decision.
Yeah, you got to understand, Mark, you can't please everybody's opinion. And that's what I do love about the NFL. They don't let nobody dictate to what they need to do. They do their homework, and they do it to a T. So when they come down to a decision, they come down to a decision based off the information they have. So they had enough information. They looked at it thoroughly. This took not even months, but damn near a couple of years. So they looked at everything, and they said, look, we're going to give Deshaun Watson 6 games. We feel like that's the best worst case scenario. So there we have it, 6 games for Deshaun Watson.
All right, Ike, we will move on. You were in Latrobe at Steelers training camp with the Steelers. I've seen some pictures. I saw you were talking to Chris Boswell. I saw a picture of you and Heath Miller as well. You're outside. You're in training camp. What do they have you doing down there, Ike? Because I have a ton of questions.
Working with the scouting department, so I'm sitting with the scouting department. Of course, congratulations to Omar Khan. He's the new GM. Just hanging around these scouts and just seeing how they do in Pittsburgh, the grading systems, how they watch tape, how they break down players. When it comes down to college guys and what are they looking for from different positions. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm really getting in depth when it comes down to, the scouting side. So it's fun to me because I don't think people know I was in the scouting department as a active player. I always wanted to be a scout / GM. So this is the right time, man. I appreciate the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Rooney and his family, Coach T, and also Omar Khan for just giving me this opportunity, Mark, to come in and say what I need to say, put my 2 cents in, and do presentations and break down what I think a Pittsburgh Steelers should look like.
When was the last time you were in Latrobe, Ike, for Steelers training camp?
Right before the pandemic, so I want to say 2018.
Gotcha. Got you. I imagine that this is almost like asking a parent who their favorite kid is, but was there someone you were most excited to see, a familiar face, when returning to Latrobe?
Man, it's always good to see Coach T. Coach T, if you just talk to him, he always got some kind of gem or nugget every time he talks, So it was good to see him. Also, I wanted to catch up with the young players. So I've been talking to Diontae about his situation. I've been talking to GP, which is George Pickens, the new wide receiver. And I think he's going to be special. I think he's going to be the personality of the team. I also got a chance to talk to Najee. Sat down with him. I want to see him in person. And boy, that dude, they'll look just like Derrick Henry, but probably with a thicker frame. And I got a chance to talk to Devin Bush and his injury and how he feels this year. So basically got a chance to talk to Minkah, try to pick his brain. So, man, I'm just sitting here talking to all the young guys, telling them how it used to be back in Pittsburgh, telling them the standard in Pittsburgh, but also just like picking their brain and walking them here as a Pittsburgh Steelers. So I just been hanging around the young guys, man, just try to give them as much wisdom as possible. But it's just fun to watch these kids grow not kids, these young men grow and come to training camp, come to Latrobe. And this where it all starts, Mark. It starts in Latrobe. You know, your career starts in Latrobe. Your foundation starts in Latrobe. And just being a Pittsburgh Steeler, because of the history behind it since the 60s, always starts in Latrobe as well. So these young guys, man, I think they pretty much understand. I do think this is a special group. We're going to get into the quarterback situation on our show, but that's what I'm doing right now, man. I'm just picking a lot of brains, getting as much information as I need, and just glad that the Pittsburgh Steelers are allowing me to be part of the scouting department.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that they bring a player like you back, Ike, 12 years of experience, all with the same organization, Heath Miller as well. Players just do things the right way and that are just solid, established pro veteran players who have gone and done it before and achieved the highest level of success. So that's really cool to see even from afar. And it's just like, it's so cool just to see you out there in your element, Ike, even from afar. It's been really fun to watch on your social media channels too. So as always with the show, we'll put our social media handles in the show notes. So if you want to check out Ike's journey in Pittsburgh, you can do that. I've got to ask you this because I saw you were in the weight room as well. You were rocking all your Steelers gear. I saw you were working up a sweat as always. Is there anyone in there in the weight room with you who's just an absolute beast that our fans should know about, Ike?
Honestly, I don't even be paying attention. Once I get in the weight room, I kind of zone out. Now everybody be looking at me crazy because I'm fully geared. So I have my hoodie on, my long pants on, my beanie on, and they're like, bro, how the hell are you working out with all this on? I'm like, man, that's just what we do in Florida. Even standing outside when it's like 80-something degrees, everybody be looking at me crazy. But I'm like, man, if y'all can come down to Florida, y'all understand this is no kind of heat. But that's just something my body's used to, just working out like this. But, yeah, as far as like the weight room, I really don't pay attention. Once I'm in there, I'm on my own.
All right, Ike, I'll let you off the hook there. Anything else our fans should know about with your journey in Latrobe, Ike? Because, again, I've just been getting some pictures here and there. I'm like, oh, there's Ike there on the field with Chris Boswell. There's Ike with his old teammate, Heath Miller. Is there anything else you want to make sure our listeners and viewers know about?
George Pickens will be one of the reasons why the Pittsburgh Steelers will be successful, and it will come sooner than later.
All right. You heard it here first. And Ike, you predicted that the Steelers would draft Pickens. Like, I could look at the timestamp. I Bleav it was like 3 weeks before the NFL draft. You said, this is a guy that the Steelers really, really like. And I'm just going to say, you used your psychic abilities to call that. You could go back and look at the tape on the Bleav in Steelers show. Psychic Ike Taylor out on the pod again. This is August 1st. You're hearing this now. So when we get, I don't know, week 8, 9, 10 into the season, and George Pickens is having a nice rookie year, you heard it from the man himself, Ike Taylor. Ike, what did you make of the back and forth? I saw Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Heyward. I don't want to call it a beef because they both made it clear in the interviews, if you actually listen to the full clips, that it's not. But what did you make of their back and forth just about the state of the Steelers? And they were specifically talking about some of the lack of playoff success and, me first players. What did you make of the back and forth between the two Steelers all-pro players?
Well, Cam just felt some kind of way, and from what I look at it from 7 point of view is the pot calling the kettle black, so I'm like, man, just once you leave, just leave everything alone. Once I left everything alone in Pittsburgh. Once Troy left, he left everything alone in Pittsburgh. Ryan Clark left, he left everything alone in Pittsburgh. Pouncey left, he left everything alone in Pittsburgh. But saying there's a lot of me players, at the time you was a part of that. And I'm talking about 7. So you were the leader. You had the opportunity to change that around if you thought that. So why you didn't do that? And that's how I think Cam is looking at it. Like, don't say nothing now that you're not here. When you were here, it should have been said. So that's just my opinion on how Cam is thinking, but I don't think I'm too far off when I do say that.
Yeah, and I saw that Roethlisberger went on a radio show after the fact and kind of walked back his comments a little bit, saying he should have been more detailed, more specific, and it's not the majority of the players that are me first, but it's almost like putting toothpaste back in the tube. I honestly think exactly. And I honestly think that he's trying to be honest about the Steelers' lack of playoff success in the last 5 seasons or so. But what I wanted to ask you about, Ike, and I think he's just trying to be candid as he can be, but what's it like going from a starter and a contributor to an elite sports franchise to not playing anymore? What's that transition like?
Man, it was cool for me because we already had Troy Polamalu, and we all knew he was special. And I say this all the time, Mark. Troy was Michael Jackson, and we was just part of the Jackson 5. So when it came down to me retiring, I never chased the red carpet. I never chased the spotlight. I understood where my lane was in football. And it's hard to do, and I see it from a lot of players because, man, we've been a man all our life. Once you start at 8 years old and you wind up retiring at between 30 and 34, and everything just closed on you. The door closed on you. There's no more red carpets, nobody calling you for autograph signings unless you're a Hall of Fame like Troy Polamalu. You just become a used to, a has-been, and just to sum it up. And it's hard to swallow, it's hard to take, but you got to have a plan, man. You got to understand you. So that's what I see with a lot of players they struggle with. Retiring at 30-some years old was pretty early. Retiring at 20-some years old, because that's what these young guys are doing now. They don't want to play football till their 30s. It's a huge transition, and a lot of guys don't know how to transition out of it because we have been in the spotlight for so long, but they got to understand, man, football in any professional sport will forever be a young man's sport unless you play quarterback, unless you play punter, unless you're a kicker. Them guys can play 15 to 20 years if they're really good at it, and they really never been in that kind of spotlight off of the positions I just named unless you're a quarterback. So it's just a transitional part. It's just from your whole life, you kind of bet on yourself. And what I mean, bet on yourself, you're one out of a few or a needle in the haystack when it comes to making it this level, let alone being very successful at this level. And now everything, man, the whole spotlight is gone. And people just tend to chase it or they can't adjust to it.
Yeah, I know the NFL, National Football League, in my opinion, stands not for long because
Correct.
They do this study every few years where it's like the average NFL career is 3 or 4 seasons, and that's it. So there's always fresh talent coming in every year, guys getting drafted, some players that prove themselves as undrafted players that are able to establish themselves and carve out a role for themselves in this league. So I think some of that stems from that. And in all honesty, too, I think both players are just trying to be honest of, what do the Steelers need to do to get back to the playoff success and hoisting Lombardi trophies, chasing number 7. I think that's ultimately what this comes from. And so, again, I don't want to make this out to be more than what it is. And both players even said that in their respective interviews. There's a level of respect of, even if there's a disagreement publicly, there's a level of respect for both players given their contributions to the team that I think there's something to be said about that too.
Cam was just defending what Ben has said in my mind. And, if you listen to the whole interview, 7 did backpedal a little bit. He said he didn't mean it like that, but it's kind of too late. You said what you said, and that's how people kind of felt. And if you're a player on the football team, I think Cam, like I say, just looked at it like, bro, you've been in the locker room and you just retired. Why would you say that now? Why you didn't say this, while you were here? If anybody had a voice in the locker room, it was you, 7. So I just think that's how Cam looks at it.
With you, Ike. We'll move on. Minkah Fitzpatrick coming into training camp with a wrist injury. Right. And so apparently he fell off a bike during vacation in the off season. Right. I guess he'll have a little bit of discomfort. Can't imagine he'll miss any time during the regular season with this. I know there'll be some discomfort, but I just want to make sure we've got Minkah Fitzpatrick ready to roll. Want to get him back to an all-pro level. And I want to make sure he's not having 120 tackles again this season. Let's have the ball hawk on the back end of the defense that we saw as an all-pro safety in 2019 and 2020. I want to see him return to form in 2022. And I say return to form, it's not really that he underperformed in 2021, but there were struggles with the front 7, which forced him to make a lot more tackles and play up and not be, again, the ball hawk that he typically is on the back half of the defense.
Yeah, Minkah would be just fine, man. You look at Minkah, you look at his body structure, Mark, and he's built like a running back. He's built like a tall running back. So I see him in person. I'm like, okay, now I see why he got a little pop when he hits. Now I see why he's so explosive. Now I see why he come in and out his breaks. Now I see why, man, he's such a ball hawk. He can cover so much ground on that back end because the man is built to be explosive. And when you pop in the tape, that's exactly what he is, let alone with a high IQ. You know, he's the quarterback of that defense. He gets everybody lined up, and he's very instinctive, you know. So he's just a true, genuine pro when it comes down to watching tape, taking care of his body, making plays, being very instinctive, and you wonder why. The man just understands what it is. He understands how to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He understands just how to be a professional again, Mark. So Minkah, man, just a little bit different, you know, soft-spoken, but when he says something, he means it, and you can understand it's genuine. So I'm getting an opportunity to be firsthand with Minkah, man. So it's pretty cool. It's like watching little baby Troy out there just talking to him. No, there's only one Troy. Don't get that twisted. But just watching some of the ingredients Troy had as a player, Minkah has that as well.
I'd imagine that's almost like deja vu for you, Ike.
Yeah, but you know, Troy is a little bit different, man. Troy played outside the box, in the box, on the line, around the line of scrimmage. Troy pretty much did it all. But Minkah is holding his own as well, I will say.
The bigger concern I have, Ike, so Minkah will not join his teammates early on in practice for the practice field for training camp. Can't imagine that'll go on for too long, but Tyson Alualu starting on the physically unable to perform list as well due to a knee injury. Hope this is just maintenance. They need to make sure that he's ready to roll come week one. It's a player the Steelers desperately missed. 35 years old, so he's no spring chicken. But that's honestly the bigger concern that I have, just because need to make sure that front seven is fortified this upcoming season.
If it's any depth on this team, it's the defensive line. And they will play a huge part in the Steelers' success.
I love that, Ike. We'll see. And again, I don't want to make more of this than it needs to be. We have a few more topics to get to as well. Need to make mention of this. Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, saying Mason Rudolph has a great shot at winning the quarterback job. Ike, we're into August now. We're chomping at the bit for the start of the football season. I think this is just kind of coach speak, to put it out there, of a team that the Steelers have to play to say, oh, well, we have to prepare for Mason Rudolph now, too, potentially starting at quarterback. I still think, I know Pickett's third on the depth chart right now, but Trubisky, Pickett, I think it'd be one of those two guys starting week one of the season. We both think it's going to be Trubisky, but I think this is just fodder to put it out there for other teams where it's like, we don't have anything else to talk about, so let's put it out there. And look, Mason Rudolph does have starting experience in this league. Correct. Am I reading this the wrong way? Am I crazy? What do you think of my take on this?
Mark, you ain't crazy at all. Mason Rudolph have a good shot, not a great shot, of being the starter. It will be Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah. Then it will be Mason Rudolph. Then it will be Kenny Pickett. But far as like a great shot to be the Pittsburgh Steelers week one opening starting quarterback and Mason Rudolph, no. Unless Mitchell Trubisky, and knock on wood, unless Mitchell Trubisky gets hurt, Mason Rudolph will be holding the clipboard and watching Mitchell Trubisky in week one throw the football 30 to 40 times a game.
Is it typical for quarterbacks who are just drafted, Ike, to say that you're going to be the third on the depth chart? I guess the question I have then is maybe the more interesting and the more nuanced conversation would be, okay, who's going to win the backup job between Rudolph and Pickett?
Yeah, that's what it is. Who can win the backup job? Because Mitchell, from my eyes, clearly is the starter. And we talked about this before I even saw him on our show. Mark, I felt like Mitch Trubisky had a good chance of starting. And the reason why, man, he's a former Pro Bowler. He was successful at some point in time for the Chicago Bears. We didn't know what the offensive game plan looked like for the Chicago Bears. Now he has some weapons on the outside, and George and Chase and Austin the third, and tight end, and Pat, and running backs, and Najee. The only thing is they got to clean up the offensive line. But like I say, man, I thought he was athletic, and he showed me he's very athletic. So Mitch, man, in my mind right now, whether it's today or whether it's 3 or 4 weeks from now, I think he will be the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback.
All right, I'll say this. I mean, agreed. Great father. I'm not buying what Matt Canada's selling, saying great shot for Mason Rudolph to start at quarterback. And hey, we'll put it out there, and we're going to clip this segment to our social media. We need things to talk about here between now and when snaps are already taken.
Yeah,
but
Mark, don't buy that. Don't buy it. We're gonna put that on discount. What he said, 70%.
All right, Ike, 2 more topics to get to. We'll wrap up. We've had a full show here on today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers show. Diontae Johnson, a hold in at training camp. And so you saw TJ Watt follow the same structure a year ago when he was trying to negotiate his new deal. He's working out on the side. I like that more teams should do this for a player trying to get a long-term deal. Now, this comes on the heel of Deebo Samuel with the 49ers getting $58 million guaranteed up to $73.5 million over the next 3 years with the 49ers. So yet another receiver getting a massive contract extension. Right. And the question I would have for Diontae Johnson is, what is it that you're hoping to achieve? And with the Holden situation, in my opinion, what that signals is he wants that long-term big contract, but maybe he's willing to take a little bit less to stay with the Steelers, knowing that he'll probably see all of that money through versus if he goes out and tests the open market. We've talked about this all the time here on the Bleav in Steelers show of you go elsewhere and you don't have the same type of success. Who's the first one who's going to get cut? Who's the first one where you're going to be back on the open market again and your value is going to be diminished tenfold? So I think more teams should do this with the hold-in situation where he's at training camp. There's certain stuff he'll do on his own while they try to work out a new deal. Because I'll say this about Diontae, making about $3 million in 2022. I don't think he's quite at the Tyreek Hill level, but he's worth more than the $3 million he's owed this upcoming season.
Right. So you go with DK Metcalf. Seattle gave him 3 for $73. Then Deebo Samuel come back 3 for $72. But what I told Diontae is you can't look at what everybody else getting. You can't look at their money. But now there's a new structure. So these top wide receivers coming out with a 3-piece. And I mean 3 years for the 70-something. What's good for Diontae, and just my personal opinion, Mark, give me 3 for $60. You give me 3 for $60, you guarantee me between 28 and 35, I will be a Pittsburgh Steeler for them 3 years. We will see what happens off of this number. I will be the first to say it. So there you go, Mark.
Hey, listen, you've been so spot on with so much of this stuff. I almost want to take it as gospel because 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be like, didn't we talk about this on the show? Did we talk about this on the show? And you have a huge grin on your face right now, Ike.
Yeah, bro.
We'll see. The Holden situation, again, my PSA, other teams and other players should use this. It worked out for TJ Watt and the Steelers a season ago. And if Johnson replicates the success that he had in 2021 when he was a Pro Bowler again, I am never going to argue with Pro Bowl level production, Ike. I am never going to argue that. So we'll see if a new contract can get done between now and the start of the season. And if that happens too, Chase Claypool is then the next one on the clock because he's under contract the next 2 seasons. We'll see, because you can't pay everyone. I'm excited to see what George Pickens can do. I'm excited to see what Calvin Austin III could do, to where going into this offseason, I was nervous about the Steelers receiving position, but it's like now I'm drinking that Steelers Kool-Aid when it comes to receivers, Ike.
Nah. If Diontae will get paid, Chase has 2 years left. If George Pickens becomes sooner than later what I think he will be, and that will be Rookie of the Year, a Pro Bowler in 2 years, Chase won't be here. My personal opinion.
We'll see how all of this shakes out, Ike, but wow, NFL Rookie of the Year is a second rounder for George Pickens. that would be a tremendous season.
Right.
And I'm kind of basing this on, I'm not saying he's going to be Jamar Chase. There's only one Jamar Chase.
Correct.
But if you're talking about that kind of level of impact as a rookie, to say, hey, he's the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year as a second rounder, that would be he'd have an excellent performance to even be in that conversation, Ike. So
well, you got it. Well,
you got to think,
Mark. He got drafted in the second round, but he had a first round grade. And the only reason why he got drafted in the second round because of his injury. If the man didn't get injured, they was looking at this man top 15 pick, the first wide receiver taken. So, the second round, that's a steal for sure for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, for him to be around in the early second round, Pittsburgh got him a steal. But, man, just looking at what he did before he got injured, he would have been gone in the top 15 off the first round.
Like, you got me fired up this morning because I just want to pull up the clip. George Pickens against Georgia Tech, where he's just he's mollywopping the defensive back. I'm going to play that on loop between now and the start week 1 of the season.
Yeah, Joe, I'm telling you, all he want to do is play football. All that young man wants to do is play football. And today they putting the pads on. So what receiver can't wait to put on pads? That's George Pickens.
I was going to say, Ike, there's usually only a few, and you played with one of them in Hines Ward, so you saying that takes merit because you saw best of the best. Right. You saw the best blocking receiver that the game's ever had, so that excites me, Ike.
Yeah, George going to be special, and he's going to be special this year.
You heard it here first from the man himself, Ike Taylor. Ike, final topic of today's show. My prayers were answered, and the Steelers signed a running back, Jeremy McNichols, to a 1-year deal. Now, Trey Edmonds is gone, but this signals to me that the Steelers are trying to find the Robin to Najee Harris as Batman. And I like the way that he caught the ball out of the backfield a season ago. Carried the ball only 41 times for the Titans, but he caught 28 passes out of the backfield. I'm excited to see what Nichols can do in this backfield. I think that, look, there's only so many roster spots, but what does this mean for Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, Mateo Durant, Jalen Warren, the 2 undrafted rookies, those final 2? But I know that the Steelers also worked out Jordan Howard as well, the former Bears and Eagles running back. Correct. But this excites me, Ike, because this signals to me, look, we love Najee Harris. We love what he can do. We like that he's the bell cow, but someone who can spell him, keep him fresh, and provide a change of pace in the backfield as well. Nichols signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. And again, my prayers are answered. I love it. I love this signing.
Well, just from the couple of days I've been here, I'm looking at Matt Canada. He wants his running backs to be able to come out the backfield because they're going to be lined up outside of the backfield, and they're going to run a few routes as well when they do get in certain formations and situations in football. So this is exactly what Jeremy McNichols brings to the table when you want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. When you think of Tennessee, man, you're thinking of tough. You know, when you think of Pittsburgh, you think of tough, especially when it comes down to the running back position. And he's going to work fine with Najee. He's going to be a great threat after Najee or when Najee needs a break to help his body out. But yeah, Jeremy McNichols, he brings more than just that toughness to the table. When you got a guy who come out the backfield, that's even better.
And Ike, when an opposing defense is playing man-to-man and you can split a running back out wide and a slot receiver, or maybe sometimes all the way out, furthest out an X or Y position, if you have man-to-man coverage with a linebacker who's a little bit slower and is more of a run stopper, potentially you're talking about mismatches on the outside as well that you can exploit against an opposing defense too. So he's demonstrated that ability to come out of the backfield and catch passes and be a reliable target out of the backfield. Not all running backs have that skill set. So to see that he's demonstrated the ability to do that, that excites me. And it's yet another way that the Steelers offense can get back to what it needs to be. Because again, I go back to this stat. Steelers have not scored 40 points in a regular season game since 2018. If they want to win a shootout, and I expect the defense to play well. There's certain games where you got to win with different styles of play. I want to see that offense be a little bit more potent than it's been the last few seasons, to where we're always relying on excellent defensive play and excellent play from special teams. I want to see this offense explode. And I'm not expecting that week 1. They're a young offense. But come week 18 in the season, I expect the Steelers to be heck of a lot better than they are compared to week 1 in the season from an offensive standpoint.
Agreed. I mean, you took the thought out of my brain. I'm thinking more mid-season. I think Pittsburgh will be a running team the first, 8 to 9 games. They will figure out who they are, or they will have the run game established, which should be the personality to that offense. Then they'll start to open it up about time that 10th, 11th game come around. That's when you see the good ingredients between the mixture of running and play action passing.
I said it off the top of the show. Preseason is almost here. First preseason game against the Seahawks, August the 13th. So less than 2 weeks away now.
Right.
What will you be doing in Latrobe between now and then as we start to wrap up here on today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers show? I know you're still in Latrobe for the next few days.
Evaluating players who are here now, giving grades on them. Also evaluating college guys that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at for the 2023 draft.
I love it, Ike. I absolutely love it. IT, you're the absolute best. Huge kudos to you, and enjoy the rest of your time in Latrobe as well. I want to thank the Bleav Network, also our producers over at Brinks TV, led by John Brinkus, Courtney Vargas, Herbert Diaz, producer Yancy as well. Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers show brought to you by betonline.ag. They'll take care of all of your sports gambling needs. And I want to thank the listeners and the viewers of the Bleav in Steelers show. Keep rocking with us because football season, it is almost here. I'm so excited.
It's here. Make sure y'all give us a 5-star rating. Continue to listen to Mark and I at the Bleav in Network. That's all we do. We're very insightful with a lot of personality. You can learn a lot listening to Mark and I. But I want to thank everybody who behind the scenes, Miss Courtney and her crew, the Bleav in Network. Mark, appreciate you very much. So make sure y'all give us that 5-piece, man. All we do is spit game and be very insightful with it.
100%, Ike. Tap that subscribe button. And I got to plug 2 quick things really quickly, Ike. I saw you were on the Volume podcast with Colin Cowherd, so go check out that conversation between Ike and Colin. I also want to plug as well, Ike, this past week I had the chance to talk to the legend William Shatner himself as part of my responsibilities at WRAL. So check out my social media channels for that full conversation with the legendary William Shatner. So 100%, Ike, 100%.
Look at you, Mark.
Hey, man, we're blowing up, Ike. We're blowing up. For Ike Taylor, I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you for watching the Bleav in Steelers show. We will see you next week. Until then, take care, and so long, everybody.
If I don't say this, Miss Courtney will get on my butt. Peace.
What's up, Pittsburgh? Right now on the SXM app, hear the most in-depth Pittsburgh Steelers coverage anywhere with Bleav in Steelers, part of the Bleav Podcast Network on SiriusXM. Hear from me, Mark Bergin, and my co-host, 2-time Super Bowl champion Ike Taylor, as we break down the Steelers before and after every game throughout the NFL season.
Your team, your podcast, search BLEAV in Steelers on X. Oh, damn, SXM. Damn. Okay. You ready?
Restart it. You're good. Restart it. You're good.
Your team, your podcast, search BLEAV in Steelers on the SXM app, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Do you Bleav?
Perfect. And I can edit that together too. We'll do the 10 seconds in 5, 4, 3. What's up, Pittsburgh? Right now on the SXM app, hear the most in-depth Pittsburgh Steelers coverage from me, Mark Bergin, and Ike Taylor.
Listen to the Bleav in Steelers show, part of the Bleav Podcast Network. Search BLEAV in Steelers.
Perfect. And I'll edit those together, and we'll get it.
Hey, let me do the first one over again.
Do you want to flip it? Do you want to do one where we flip it to where you do the first part and I do the second part too?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's flip it, and then what I'll do is I'll listen to all of this back and I'll make sure it sounds good. So you read my part and I'll read your part. Yeah. We'll just flip it for this time.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
What's up, Pittsburgh? Right now on SXM app, hear the most in-depth Pittsburgh Steelers coverage anywhere in Bleav in Steelers, part of the Bleav Podcast Network on Sirius XM. Hear from me, Ike Taylor, and my co-host, Mark Bergin. You ready?
Yeah.
What's up, Pittsburgh? Right now on the SXM app. Hear the most in-depth Pittsburgh Steelers coverage anyone Bleav in Steelers, part of the Bleav Podcast Network on Sirius XM. Hear from me, Ike Taylor, and my co-host, Mark Bergin, as we break down the Pittsburgh Steelers before and after every game through the NFL season.
Your team, your podcast. Search BLEAV in Steelers on the SXM app, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you Bleav?
What's up,
while we're still
Pittsburgh?
recording, I would say do one of your big, like, what's up, Pittsburgh? And then do one single line of, do you Bleav? So just from Ike, do it really big.
You ready, Ms. Courtney?
Ready.
What's up, Pittsburgh? Do you Bleav?
Now you can just edit those in wherever, because
Yeah.
I think those
Yeah.
are,
Okay.
I think you
Yeah.
kind of want Ike doing both of those.
Yeah.
For sure. Could we do let's do the 10-second one where we flip it again, and then we'll flip it again, and then we'll start the show.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
What's up, Pittsburgh? Right now on the SXM app, hear in-depth Pittsburgh Steelers. Courage me, Ike Taylor, and Mark Bergin.
Listen to the Bleav in Steelers show, part of the Bleav Podcast Network. Search BLEAV in Steelers. And I'll mash that together.